Welcome to J is for Justice podcast. If live breaking news and following true crime is your thing, then please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you like what you see in my videos, please consider giving them a thumbs up.
Hello. Oh my gosh, it's been so long since I've seen all of you. How are you? Let's get this up on the screen. We are going to find out about this Long Island serial killer, Mr. Rex Heuermann. And we are on standby for law enforcement to take the stage. Let me get it up for you. Thank you for joining again. Thank you for not disappearing on us. And here we are, Suffolk County, New York. And while we wait, pardon me, I'm going to tell you a little bit about this dude, Rex. Hang on. Let's get this pulled up in another window. Oh my God, Robin, you crack me up. Like, you read my mind, girl. You read my mind. All right. Welcome back, everyone, to J is for Justice. Go click that like button really fast. Smash that bish. And I'm going to tell you about this Rex dude. They arrested him last night, and a string of long unsolved slayings of women on Long Island, New York. He lived in a cozy South Shore suburb, not far from the Beach Highway, where human remains were first found more than a decade ago. The suspect was identified in court documents as Rex Heuermann. Heuermann, 59, of Massapequa Park, a village in Nassau County. His arrest sent shockwaves through his quiet bedroom community as neighbors described a well-dressed man who would commute to work in Manhattan as an architect with no reason to believe he would be involved in a series of killings, hiding in plain sight yet again. Yet again. This is all far too common these days. If he's found guilty, he was living a double life, said Rosemary Kafka, 56, a former neighbor who had lived near Rex before moving last year. She said, quote, you know, the regular guy who goes to work, has kids in the local school and in a good neighborhood, but he's just killing people on the side.
What?
Right. Heuermann is charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder and 3 counts of second-degree murder in the deaths of 3 women. He is also suspected in the disappearance and death of a 4th woman, but that investigation remains ongoing, according to his bail application. A judge remanded him without bail. And then they had a news conference earlier where they hadn't named him yet. So here's what happened when he was arrested. His attorney, Michael J. Brown, told reporters that accusations against his client are extremely circumstantial in nature. And the only thing that Heuermann has said, besides denying involvement, is, as he was in tears, I didn't do this. He's distraught. He's clearly distraught about the charges here. The case dogged investigators for years. After the discovery of human remains in 2010 near Gilgo Beach led to as many as 16 victims being found, many of them known sex workers. Police do not believe all those deaths are linked to the same person, but that Heuermann is involved in 4 of those slayings, in which the women were found in similar positions and bound with either belts or tape. The bodies of those 3 women were also wrapped in burlap. DNA and cell phone evidence played a key role. So his neighbor also said, Patricia Maressa, 64, said that he was a tall, big guy, always well dressed. Everyone's shocked. He was very organized. He was very friendly. This person said, I knew him as a friend and a colleague. I'm completely surprised. She just spoke with him last Tuesday on Zoom. Oh my gosh. He told a friend, listen to this. In an interview from his Manhattan office, posted on YouTube by Bonjour Realty in early 2022. We're going to have to watch that. Let's see. Interview with Rex. Oh, shut the front door.
Bonjour, I'm Antoine. Today on interview, Rex Heuerman, owner of RH Consultant, a Department of Building facilitator. Let's go meet him.
We're going to have to watch this.
Working in Manhattan since 1987.
Oh, wow.
Very long time.
Okay, so this brings
I'm shook.
directly to my first question. So, can you explain to our audience what is it that you do? Not the
This is
architect
20 minutes
part
long.
of your business, but the other part of the business, which is, it's my understanding that you're kind of a facilitator with the Department of Building. Is that correct? But please tell us.
That's correct, but much more.
Okay.
What I
That's so much
do-
more I'm interested.
I do troubleshooting, architectural troubleshooting, and negotiations with the building department.
Okay.
What I mean by that is, do we do the standard stuff with the building department, handle your filings? I have other clients who are a lot of other architects, and we'll handle their interactions with the building department.
Oh my God. All these things creep me out when we have like killers and they do like normal stuff like interviews and then we see their hands and we're like, what'd they do with those hands? He looks like he's wearing a wig. And he's he's gross. Look at his hands. His hands just look like a mortician's hands. Have you ever shooken a mortician's hands? Like gone to a funeral and really felt their hands? Have you? Because I have. And every hand of a mortician has felt like a dead fish that's wet. Oh, shit. Okay, let's go back to the press conference. We'll get back to this. I'm just like, what the fuck? Joe Rogan, help me out here.
Like, what the fuck is this? And everybody's like, what the fuck is this?
Oh, lordy, lordy, lordy. Help me. Ew, he's just icky and yeah. We haven't started yet. Should we go back to it and like, should I pull it up in a different window? Oh my God, Lizzie, he's got a fucking wedding ring on. That is fucking bananas. Liz. He's married. I'm going to barf. Okay, let me play this. He looks like Chad Daybell / Dr. John. Oh my God, I'm just kidding. I can't say that. Okay, while they get prepared, just so we don't miss anything, because I want to make sure this is the guy, because this is creepy as fuck. Look at him. He's like, what the fuck? He's saying,
like, what the fuck is this? And everybody's like, what the fuck is this?
oh, shit. Ew, hot dog fingers. Yeah, they're like raw hot dog fingers. And like the hot dogs that you don't want to eat that are made out of chicken. Casey. Oh.
Yeah.
Especially out of city architects because they're a little afraid of the city.
I'm not going to lie. He reminds me of my neighbor. Oh, my God.
And when a job that should have been routine suddenly becomes not routine, I get the phone call.
Gotcha.
Whether it's an old building and they need somebody that understands and can maneuver the 1938 building code or the current building code. You look surprised when I say 1938 building code.
Building,
I've actually used the 1901 old tenement laws here in the city of New York, and you can legally do so.
Oh, wow.
That's one of the little things that
you do.
People don't always understand when it comes to building codes.
Yeah.
They never read the administrative section.
So,
why is that so funny?
What decided you to launch that particular, I would say, a niche of a business? Was it because out of frustration on your side as an architect? You say, I can't believe, I didn't think about that. Let me dive into it and let me try to maybe make it a business out of it, or
oh my God, he does. He does have Trump lips, like asshole lips. Trump has the asshole lips.
The first architect I worked for was Harvey Rosenberg.
Okay.
Great man. That year, a new law came out. Local Law 58 of 87.
Okay.
That's all the handicap access.
Okay.
They said, you're the new guy, you read it. So, I read it.
You read it.
There was a situation dealing with the city. They said, well, go meet with the city. I did. I was effective at it. He said, go do it again.
Oh, that's funny.
And that's how the whole thing started.
Okay.
And he did a lot of work with not-for-profit agencies for developmentally disabled. So that's where I started doing a lot of my building code.
Oh, he was around the developmentally disabled. That's not good. I know Melissa B says, what a weird knot in his scarf. It's like, what? I don't understand it either. I don't even understand this interview and why he's laughing so much, unless this is like a setup to like get him to talk and he's nervous. When did they do this? 1 year ago. Watch Rex and I talking about his consulting business started. Hear him talking about his work and sharing his thoughts about what it takes to deal with New York City DOB rules. RH Consultants and Associates. There's his digits. There's his digits. Oh, we've got sound. All right, we'll put him over to the side and we're going to watch the press conference and then we'll finish this. Maybe. I mean, it doesn't seem like they're starting yet. I'll keep playing it until they start.
Consultant with him, as well as the design and drawings for these
the
facilities.
drawings. Did he say drawings?
And the one thing I learned very quickly was the building department could not understand them.
Couldn't understand what? Their own codes?
Their own codes, their own laws, because you have what we would call a group home for developmentally disabled.
Okay.
It doesn't exactly fit the code book. And the planning examiners who work for the building department did.
All right, let's listen. He can watch his own press conference. Who are these women? This is going to be interesting, guys. Get comfy. Here we go. I'm muting.
All set? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you all for coming. I'm standing here with my law enforcement partners in the Gilgo Task Force to announce the indictment of defendant Rex Andrew Heuermann, 59 years of age. He's been arrested by the Suffolk County Police Department's homicide detectives, and he's been indicted in a grand jury presentation by the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office for the murders of Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. The investigation of Maureen Brainerd Barnes is ongoing. These young women went missing between July of 2007 and September of 2010. They were found in December of 2010 by the Suffolk County Police Department, and he's been indicted. There was nothing, absolutely nothing. For the next 13 years, their cases went unsolved until today. When I took office in January of 2022, I made Gilgo a priority. I made Gilgo a priority before I took office. I met with the victims' families, some of whom I'm proud to have standing with us today, and I told them that we were going to handle this case differently. We were going to do it differently, and that when I showed up, you weren't going to see me calling the media and being on Gilgo Beach with a giant magnifying lens looking for clues 12 years after the case. What I was going to do was I was going to work with my task force. We were going to form a task force. We were going to work with the Suffolk County Police Department. We were going to work with the Suffolk County Sheriff's Office. We were going to work with the New York State Police. We were going to work with our FBI. And we were going to form this task force, and we were going to work together, and we were going to use the grand jury, the power of the grand jury, to reach a determination in this case. Because the grand jury has two things. It has power, it has reach. You could obtain documents, you could interview witnesses. But the other thing that the grand jury has, no one knows what you do when you operate a grand jury proceeding. And we knew that when we were investigating this case and when we dealt with the media or whatever it was we were doing, we were playing before a party of one, because we knew the person responsible for these murders would be looking at us. So we were very careful how we handled the investigation. We maintained the integrity of the investigation. Most importantly of all, we maintained the secrecy of that investigation, and I think that's paid dividends as we've seen today. Now, I think that when we had the task force, the first thing we did, got together with Suffolk County Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison. We formed the task force. Our first meeting was February 1st of 2022. And what we did, all of the agencies here, we made the commitment. We were going to take our most talented investigators. So in the district attorney's office, we took ADAs, myself included. We took analysts. We took detective investigators. And they worked on a daily basis with other talented investigators from all of the agencies here. We started that in February 1st in 2022. 6 weeks later, on March 14th, 2022, the name Rex Heuermann was first mentioned as a suspect in the Gilgo case. A New York State investigator was able to identify him in a database, and from that point on, we used the power of the grand jury, over 300 subpoenas and search warrants looking into this individual's background to bring us to this day. So I'm proud. I know that this case is over, but I'm proud of what we've accomplished up to this point. I know we have more to accomplish, but I'm also thankful for the partnership of the task force, because certainly without the participation of the task force, we wouldn't be standing here. Before I thank some folks and turn it over to our partners, I just want to talk a little bit about the evidence in the case. I know a lot of people know about the case. As I indicated, the victims went missing between July of 2010 and July of 2007 and September of 2010. And in December of 2010, they were their bodies were recovered. They were buried in a similar fashion, in a similar location, in a similar way. All the women were petite. They all did the same thing for a living. They all advertised the same way, and there were similarities with regard to the crime scenes. All the women were bound at the head, at the midsection, or at the chest, and later at the legs. The other thing I think that that's been talked about in the media was they were bound by burlap. That has taken a life of its own in the media, and the burlap has been described or thought to be the burlap that's used at a nursery. That's not the burlap that was used in this case. The burlap was camouflage burlap used for duck blinds of hunting. Obviously it was used to purposely hide the bodies. One thing that became immediately apparent was at the time of each of the murders, the murderer, the defendant Heuermann, he got a cell phone and a burner phone, which is prepaid and anonymous. And for each of the murders, he got an individual burner phone, and he used that to communicate with the victims. Then shortly after the death of the victims, he then would get rid of the burner phone. And right away in December of 2012, FBI CAST analysts, special agents with the CAST unit of the FBI, they immediately began looking at that cell site data. They compared the victims' phones with the burner phones, and they immediately honed in on some similarities. specifically in the Massapequa Park area, and they looked at an area of a confluence of 4 cell towers, and they realized that this had significance because the perpetrator of these crimes was probably located within this area at or around the times of the murder. And that was mapped out. That was called the box, and it was an area in Massapequa Park. The FBI also managed to do that for an area in Midtown Manhattan. And so that was an investigative lead. The other investigative lead at the time was, even though there was a significant amount of time that elapsed with regard to before the victims were recovered, there was some significant evidence recovered. Specifically, there was a hair recovered from Maureen Brainerd Barnes from a belt buckle that was around her legs. With regard to Megan Waterman, there were 3 hairs recovered from her, one from around her head area, one from around her leg area in the burlap, and then there was one caught in between the tape. And that was recovered. Amber Costello also had a significant hair that was recovered during the time of the recovery. But again, the crime scene, because it was out there for so long and because it was exposed to the elements, those hairs were degraded, so you couldn't use traditional DNA analysis on it. You would have to wait and use mitochondrial DNA. And back in 2010, the technology wasn't there for mitochondrial DNA. So the investigation proceeded, but also technology proceeded as well. And then in February of 2022, we formed the task force. We began working collectively. And then a mere 6 weeks later, on March 14th, 2022, Rex Heuermann was identified for the first time. And the manner in which that was done was the New York State investigator looked at a database. Amber Costello, the day before her disappearance on September 1st, 2010, she met with an individual for the purposes of having him pay her money for her services. But she involved herself in a ruse where once the individual gave her money, and other individuals came into the house, pretended to be significant others, confronted the individual with the purpose of making that individual uncomfortable, having him leave without retrieving his money, and that's exactly what happened. So that individual was identified as a person who was between 6'4" and 6'6", a large man, thickly built, not necessarily overly muscular, but just a naturally big person with glasses, white, and dark hair. Also of significance was that the fact that he was driving a dark-colored black first-generation Chevrolet Avalanche with a very unique feature that was between it's a pickup truck, so it was between the cab and the bed, and that was identified. Again, that was back in 2010. But it wasn't until March of 2022 that database was searched by the task force, and this individual was identified. That individual was Rex Heuermann, the defendant. And right away there were some commonalities that came right to the fore. Rex Heuermann, 6'4", largely a large person, not necessarily muscular, but a very physically large person. He has glasses.
Physically large.
The dark hair. And also, of particular note, he owned, at the time, that first-generation Chevy Avalanche. But there was more. He lived at 105 First Avenue, which was located within that box area that the FBI first discovered in 2012. But there was more. Also, he worked at the time at an architect, he owned his own architectural firm at an address at 19 West 36th Street in Midtown Manhattan. And that was also the area of interest that was identified by the FBI in 2012. Again, that was March 14th, 2022. And from that point on, our partners and my office, we used the grand jury to continue to investigate, and we executed over 300 subpoenas, search warrants pertaining to this individual to find out more information. One of the things that we did is we followed him because we wanted to get an abandonment sample of his DNA, which we were able to do. We also got DNA samples, abandonment samples from his family. And then we went back and we got mitochondrial DNA testing. And with there's an aspect of New York State law that doesn't allow me to talk about DNA testing, specifically at press conferences. So I can't do that. However, at the arraignment and also when we filed our bail letter, we talked about the significance of that evidence. So if anyone needs to see that, but suffice to say, that evidence was significant, especially with regard to the other evidence that we had developed. But it was there was another interesting aspect. We looked at the Heuermann family travel records, and we learned that during the murders of the last three women, Bartholomew, Waterman, and Costello, that during the commission of those murders, the defendant's wife and children were out of New York State, and he was alone in the tri-state area. We also went back and looked at his cell site records, and we compared his personal cell site records with that of the 4 target phones, and we saw that there was areas of commonality. In other words, that whenever the target phones would bounce off a cell tower, if the Heuermann personal phone bounced off a tower, it was always consistent and in close proximity with the target phones. And at no time was there ever an instant where those target phones were, for instance, in New Jersey while the defendant was on Long Island. So that was completely consistent. The other thing that we looked at was we looked at his use of burner phones, and we followed, using the grand jury, using the great investigative help from our partners, we followed his use of burner phones. We were able to identify 7 separate burner phones that he used. We were able to use fictitious or fraudulent email addresses and get Google warrants, and from there we got his searches. And we learned what the defendant was searching. In a 14-month period, he had over 200 searches pertaining to the Gilgo investigation. Not only was he looking at investigative insight, he was trying to figure out how is the task force using cell phones to try to figure out what's happening. What are the developments with regard to the task force? And this really supported our decision to keep our investigative focus secret, because we knew that this one person would be watching, and we didn't want to give him any insight into what we were doing. And we also didn't want him to know just how close we were getting. So we maintained the grand jury secrecy, and we maintained the integrity of our investigation. In addition to those Gilgo searches, he was compulsively searching pictures of the victims, but not only pictures of the victims, pictures of their relatives, their sisters, their children, and he was trying to locate those individuals.
Holy shit.
In addition to that, there was a lot of torture, porn, and what you would consider, depictions of women being abused, being raped, and being killed. In addition to all of that, we continued to look and we were able to determine that Chevy Avalanche that was used during the commission of the Amber Costello crime, that Chevy Avalanche was in South Carolina. And again, with the help of our partners, we were able to seize that Chevy Avalanche pursuant to a search warrant, and we're certainly going to analyze that. In addition to that, pursuant to the arrest of the defendant last night by the Suffolk County Police Department, we obtained one of his burner phones, his last burner phones. As I said, this case is not over, it's only beginning. We're continuing to execute search warrants, and we anticipate getting more evidence. Before I turn it over to my partners, I want to thank a lot of people in the room. First and foremost, I want to thank the victims in this case. You know, it's always inspiring as a prosecutor when you get to meet the victims.
This is the prosecutor.
And while sometimes our defendants could embody the very worst of humanity, it seems that invariably our victims embody the very best of what it means to be human. And in this case, it was no different. I've gotten to know the families, and I'm inspired by them, and I'm impressed by their patience and by their dogged persistence in not only supporting their lost sisters or mother or daughter, but also really really standing for victims everywhere. So I want to thank them all so much, and I want to let them know that we're going to continue to work this case. The next thing I want to do, I just want to thank our partners. I want to thank Suffolk County Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison. We said it was a change, and when we talked about not going before the media, if you see, Rodney did go before the media. But it was always in a very controlled manner, and it was always with a controlled purpose. Again, we did that because we knew we were playing before an audience of one person. And so I want to thank Rodney for his partnership. Most importantly, I want to thank Rodney for his integrity. I think in the past, the reason why these various investigations fell short was because there was a lot of outside influence, a lot of people who had nothing to do with the investigation, nothing to do with the investigation or any of the agencies that were actually handling the investigation. They still asserted pressure on those investigations. That did not happen with our task force. Our task force was run by our members, and we did what we thought was in the best investigative steps and what was in the best interest of the investigation. So I want to thank Rodney for that, and his whole team. I know that we have Suffolk County Homicide here, Kevin Byer. We've got Inspector Rowan, and I know that they've been around, and I know that they're here, and I know that they stand in the shoes of their past investigators, and I want to congratulate them, and I want to thank them for their partnership. I also want to thank Sheriff Errol Toulon. Everything I said about Rodney, I could say about Errol. Errol is an unbelievable partner. He was an unbelievable partner in this case. During the pendency of this case, and one of the reasons why we had to take this case down was we learned that the defendant was using these alternate identities and these alternate instruments to continue to patronize sex workers, which of course made us very nervous. But with the help of the sheriff and his database and his analysts, we were able to continually stay one step ahead of the defendant. So thank you, Sheriff Toulon. I want to thank the FBI. I know Assistant Director in Charge Michael Brodak is here. I want to thank his entire team. You know, when you have the FBI, not only do you have tremendous resources and insight, whether it's the Behavioral Sciences Unit, whether it's CAST, whether it's CART, which is their computer unit, but you also have the ability to seize a car in South Carolina. I can't seize a car in South Carolina without.
Look at all those men in suits, great ladies.
So
Those are your
Thank you for
those are your
partnership.
G-men.
Thank you for your willingness to
There's
work
your
with
G-men,
us.
ladies.
I want to thank the New York State troopers. I know Major Udis is here and his team. This case is emblematic of great cooperation, but we always get that same level of cooperation from the state police, no matter what case we're working. So I want to thank them. Their investigators did great work on this job and in this case, and we couldn't have done it without them. Lastly, I want to thank Nassau County Police Commissioner Pat Ryder. I don't know if he's here. Did he make it? This case, as I said, spans 13 years, and during that time, Pat Ryder has been our neighbor to the west. When it started, I think he was a sergeant, detective sergeant, maybe uniform sergeant, but whatever. Whenever we needed something to be done, or whenever the task force needed something to be done, Pat Ryder would do it, and he would do it quietly, without much fanfare, and we know he would keep the confidentiality of our grand jury and our investigation. So I want to thank him for that. And with that, I will turn it over to Commissioner Rodney Harrison.
Good afternoon. Today is a good day. And before I acknowledge the individuals that had a role in getting to this place, I would first and foremost like to offer my deepest condolences to the family members. To the family members of Amber Costello, Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman. I can only imagine what you had to endure over the last decade regarding knowing that your killer was still loose. God bless you.
This is the most respectful press conference I've seen. What about you guys? If you're on the replay crew, let us know. Have you seen anybody do this? I haven't.
So I've had the privilege of being the police commissioner nearly about 2 years now, and I have had that investigative experience in the NYPD as a detective, as the chief of detectives, and when I was going through the process of being the police commissioner, my engagement with the county executive was I was very familiar with this unfortunate homicides. And I wanted to let it be known that this was going to be our #1 priority. But I also want to make this very clear, that this arrest was made by the investigators assigned to the task force. I announced during a press conference 18 months ago about a new team effort that was going to investigate the homicide, and that was going to consist of people from Ray Tierney's office, from Mike Broddock, FBI. Mike, thank you so much. State Police, Steve, appreciate your support. Dr. Earl Talon, Jr., thank you, sir. As well as the investigators from the homicide detectives in Suffolk County. Gentlemen, thank you for all you've done working together with us, making sure we are here today. I also want to thank my partner, Pat Ryder. Pat, good seeing you, man. And former NYPD Police Commissioner, Keyshawn Sewell, for providing resources to assist in the investigation that brought us here today. So, one of my first acts was to survey the scene. When I first got assigned as a police commissioner, me and Kevin Breyer went over to Gilgo Beach. I want to thank Kevin. You know, when I first met Kevin, he broke the whole case down and where we stood. He knew the case like the back of his hand. He worked tirelessly in this case. Kev was in charge of overseeing the task force since its creation, and you did a phenomenal job, Kev. Thank you. So there's something that I learned from a former NYPD police commissioner, James O'Neill, which is in order to fight crime or to solve investigations, you have to make sure you're working with your law enforcement partners. The blueprint in making this arrest was a whole team effort. Everybody left their egos at the door and made sure that they brought the knowledge and the resources to this investigation. Fresh eyes on this case and the resiliency of our investigators allowed us to identify Rex Heuermann. Ladies and gentlemen, Rex Heuermann is a demon that walks among us, a predator that ruined families. And if not for the members of this task force,
A demon. He said a
we'd
demon.
still be out in the streets today. However, even with this arrest, we're not done. There's more work to do in this investigation regarding the other victims of the Gilgo Beach bodies that were discovered. I'm going to encourage anybody that still has information, call our Crime Stoppers hotline, 1-800-220-TIPS. I want to recognize and thank my Chief of Detectives, John. Thank you for your great work. Deputy Police Commissioner Anthony Carter, both of you who provided update information regarding the case and let it be known if there was any resources that they needed that you brought it to my attention. Since the discovery of the first
devil
victim,
is dancing tonight.
there's been a lot of scrutiny and criticism regarding how this investigation was handled. I will tell you this.
This is going to happen
The
with Moscow.
investigators were never discouraged. They continued and uncovered evidence and followed leads. They never stopped working and will continue to work tirelessly until we bring justice to all the families involved. Last but not least, I want to thank my predecessors that came before me, the work that they did. I want to thank them for really laying the foundation that helped us get to here today. Thanks, Ray.
Yay. Great job, guys. Great job, investigators. You're going to hear this in Moscow, too, I think. With all the scrutiny, I think a lot of people are going to be
Good
eating the
afternoon.
words.
My name is Michael Brodak. I'm the FBI Special Agent in charge of the New York office's Criminal Division. The FBI expended its full set of resources in support of our local and state partners to advance this investigation. The charges show that we can overcome the most difficult challenges when federal, state, and local law enforcement work together under one task force. While nothing can fill the void caused by the loss of a loved one, through today's announcement, we are hopeful that the families of the victims begin to experience a sense of peace, closure, and justice, and that the general public feels safer knowing that an alleged killer is no longer roaming free. The actions taken today should serve as a reminder that the FBI, along with our law enforcement partners, will continue to be resolute in our determination to bring all offenders to justice, no matter how many years has passed. I would like to thank Suffolk County District Attorney Ray Tierney and his prosecution team, Suffolk County Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison and the Suffolk County Police Department, the New York State Police, and the investigators and staff of the FBI New York Field Office, including the Long Island Violent Crime Task Force. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Errol D. Toulon Jr., and I'm the Sheriff of Suffolk County. I would profoundly like to thank the District Attorney and the Police Commissioner for including me not only here today, but for including the Suffolk County Sheriff's Office and recognizing the importance of jail intelligence. is extremely important when you realize that we created our human trafficking unit in 2018, that there are victims in our community, and that intelligence is being shared by many of the men and women who are incarcerated today. And we have seen many disjointed investigations occur, and leading up to the leadership of these two men have really brought everything together. I am proud that today we stand here a little bit closer to bringing closure to the families and extend my deepest condolences to all of you. Because of the nature of this case, and recognizing that human trafficking and corrections intelligence is so important, we realize that there are many other cases that are going on that we will help to solve going forward. So I thank my intelligence staff and team that are here today for their diligence and their work. While we did our part in this investigation, we continue because we have to house this individual. We have already designated or talked about certain locations where we will house him, and in addition, the security
I have a few
measures
suggestions.
we will implement in our facility to make sure that this individual is brought to justice the way he should be. Thank you very much, and have a good day.
Next.
Good afternoon. I'm Colonel Richard Allen, the field commander with the state police, and I want to start by expressing my sincere condolences to the family members that are here today. Although losing a loved one, you can never completely get rid of that pain, but hopefully these steps that are taken here today are a step in the right direction for you to start in the healing process or work through the healing process. I want to thank the members of the task force, all the agencies you see behind me. When we were approached in 2022 to be part of this task force, we were fully engaged. Glad to be part of this. We assigned investigators on a full-time basis. You know, what you see being done here today is the end game of agencies working together, as was said before, with no egos, all egos put aside, with the sole mission to find justice for these victims. You know, here in Troop L, Major Stephen Udis oversees the operations down here. He has been intricately involved in this task force since we became partners with it, and I'm going to ask him to come up and say a few words or expand upon this a little bit, our role in the task force.
Thank you, Colonel. Good afternoon. I'm Major Steve Udis, New York State Police, Troop L, Long Island Troop Commander. I'd like to take this opportunity to start off by acknowledging the DA, Ray Tierney, and Commissioner Rodney Harrison for having the vision to see that forming a task force might breathe new light into this investigation. The state police were asked in early 2022 to join this task force, and once requested, we were more than willing to do so. We were also very pleased that we were able to make some very meaningful contributions in this case to help propel it forward. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of the task force members from the different agencies and congratulate them on a job well done. I think this case represents an example of what we as law enforcement can do when we pool our resources together and we work together. I would also like to mention the state police member assigned to this task force. You were provided with a mission, and that mission was to participate in this task force, put everything else that you were doing aside, place 100% of your attention on this case, and help push this case forward. You more than accomplished that mission. I congratulate you on a job well done, and I commend you for your outstanding work. To the families, I'd like to say that on behalf of myself and the New York State Police, we offer you our deepest condolences. We recognize that these crimes may have happened years ago, but that pain continues. Our hope is that this development today provides you with some relief and some comfort, knowing that the person responsible for your loved one's death is now being held accountable, and he's no longer a threat to anyone else in society. I want you to know, additionally, that the state police is not done here. We are remaining committed and will continue to support the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office, the Suffolk County Police Department, and this task force as we move into the next phase of this process. That's the prosecution. I would also like to say something to everyone watching this with us today. There's been a lot of discussion here today about charges, about the suspect, about what happened, but I would also like everybody to take the time to join with me and keep the families of the victims and the victims themselves in your thoughts and in your prayers. Each one of these victims was a family member and a loved one, and their void and their loss caused great pain, and they did not deserve this. Nobody is deserving of this. We hope this development today will bring some comfort to them as they move forward. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions?
Let me add some gain here so we can hear her.
The safety of people in the community. Can you just explain that more here?
You know, sure. Before I do that, just I'm standing back there. I realized I didn't thank my own team. I want to thank my chief investigator, Rex Heuermann, who is
Hi, Tiff.
I'm so lucky to have. I want to thank Nick Santamartino, ADA Nick Santamartino, ADA Michelle Haddad, ADA Andrew Lee. I also want to thank my chief assistant, Alan Bodie, and I want to thank all of the incredible analysts that we have working for us at the Suffolk County DA's office. So, having said that, I'll now answer your question. I think that there was a tension in the task force, and it was a good tension because there's a tension between getting the evidence necessary to charge somebody, but also keeping the public safe. And that's the tension that we always deal with. So as we were working forward, we had the FBI surveilling the defendant. Obviously that can't be all the time, but we were reasonably assured with that. But this individual was a person that continued to patronize sex workers at all hours of the night. He continued to use fictitious email addresses, fictitious identities, burner phones. And so as we worked through the case and we got closer and closer, all of a sudden, and we built the evidence, suddenly the balance tips in favor of public safety. So, I think we all wanted as a task force to continue it, but I think collectively we felt that it was time to strike that balance.
We have some breaking news in the Idaho 4 case to bring you after this.
Family members gathered here today. Could you introduce some of them, and if they wanted to say anything about the news?
I don't believe they. Does anybody want to say anything? No, they're here. They're. I can tell you they're the Waterman, Bartholomew.
They didn't plan this with them.
Family members, but they're here. They're here first and foremost to support their loved ones, and we're happy and grateful to have them here.
Are you looking at any other people? Do you believe that there are multiple people responsible for the remains for the murders?
This portion had to deal with the deaths of these 4 young women, and that's what we focused on. That was what the grand jury investigation was focused on. I talked about the commonalities. And the commonalities, all of those commonalities that we talked to were unique to these 4 separate cases. So that's what we're working on. I think the other members of the task force said, we're going to continue, and continue to work and investigate and try to get a small measure of closure for all the victims' families. But for right now, this defendant, it's this defendant with these 4 victims.
So the other remains, is there any relationship between the person, Heuermann, and the other remains, other than the 4 women?
I'm here to talk about what we did with regard to these 4 victims, and as I open my address by talking about the need to maintain investigative secrecy. So we are going to maintain that investigative secrecy, and when I talk about other individuals and other cases. It will be after they have handled.
So is that a joint?
You mentioned that there was
Or is it a cigar?
officer made the link with Heuermann. He looked at data, and that's when Heuermann came up shortly after the task force. Can you explain that? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
So, I mean, we talked about some of the evidence that was there. Obviously the cast, that phone evidence was great evidence. And then there were other commonalities, there were other investigations. But I think one of the good things about having a task force is basically you strip it all down. And you start from scratch, and then you use the DA's office, because the DA's office has to get you the lifeblood of an investigation is information. And the way you get information on a cold case is the district attorney's office issues subpoenas in conjunction with the investigators and execute search warrants, again, in conjunction with the investigators, and then you mine all that data, and then you let that data take you where you need to go. So that's what we did in this case. And 6 weeks in, the break in the case, a significant break in the case, was the avalanche and the fact that this guy, he was described by witnesses as an ogre. He matched the description of the ogre and where he lived.
Was the avalanche the link there? Was that what jumped out?
Well, I mean, it was a lot of things, right? It was his physical size. It was his where he lived, where he worked. The fact that his family members were out of the country at the time of the commission of the 3 murders. The fact that now then you start looking into him, and then you start getting burner phones. Well, he has we had up to 7 burner phones. He's using these fictitious email addresses. So then you follow him and you get an abandonment sample. Then you go back to some of the
abandonment sample.
So it's there are I mean
pizza crust.
March 14th. 2022 was a huge day for the task force, but
I think you've got
it's never
a Ouija board down
evidence.
your pants. You're going to pull that out.
Well, there's like what they'll call lawman searches, and basically what it is you run a certain make and model of a car and certain other, where you live or what you do for a living, and then you get data, and then you mine that data for something that would match with your case. And you do that. You don't do that just you do that 100 times, until it hits, until you get the right data points.
Did the suspect say anything when he was arrested? Was he surprised? Did he admit to the murders?
So we can't talk about ethically in New York. We can't talk about any statements the defendant made, but he made. We're not turning over any statements.
Cut his mic. Cut his mic.
I would say he was, yes.
You mentioned a unique feature that helped you track down the avalanche.
Yeah. So in between the bed and the cab, there's like a little triangular ornament almost, and it's unique in the way it's configured. It's unique to the avalanche. It was unique to the avalanche at that time, and that was something that was pointed out by witnesses.
Might there be other victims?
What?
Associated with this?
Well, the investigation is continuing, and I would never say never. And we're going to continue to look at, again, now this is a watershed event in this case. And so we've now are going out and we're executing more search warrants. We'll get more information, more data, and together we'll look at that and see where it leads.
Can you share how the other victims' families are feeling today?
I'm sorry?
Did you speak to the other victims' families? Did they tell you how they're feeling today?
Which so this investigation had to do with these 4 victims. So we've been in touch with the 4 victims through the grand jury process. With regard to victims in general and other victims, who lost people in the vicinity of that area, we speak to our victims all the time, but those are conversations that we keep between ourselves.
The grand jury one victim that has not been linked to the charges to the suspect at this point.
So so first of all, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, the other 3, one went missing in 2009. I believe the others in 2010. She was in 2007. So it was a little bit more remote in time, we are working through evidence. A lot of that evidence has to do with forensic evidence and analyses that are not completed. But once those analyses are completed, we feel good about the case, and we're going to just continue to let that process go. And again, I think the initial plan was to allow the grand jury investigation to go a little further, but at a certain time, again, the task force felt, we need to, for reasons having nothing to do with the evidence in the case, we need to take it down.
And Jay, can you just sum up this defendant? You've seen a lot. Can you just sum up this defendant and what he is accused of?
He's, it's
the doughboy.
As a prosecutor and as investigators, he is charged with a crime. There are certain elements in which we need to prove that crime. We are going to prove those elements. We're going to work hard. We're going to convict him, and we're going to hold him responsible for what he did. And whether, what I think of him personally, whether I like him, whether I don't like him, doesn't matter. We are going to hold him responsible.
Just based on my observations, her hair was very greasy.
And is it concluded?
The grand jury is, it's secret. And we're going to keep it secret, but we have an investigation, and it is continuing.
There was a belt that was presented to the publicly by the Suffolk County Police Department a few years ago with initials on it. I think one of the initials appeared to be MH or WH or something along those lines. Obviously, this guy's got an H in his name.
Sure does.
Can you talk about that?
I mean, he has an H in his name. He has, so it's, what was it, HM? Or WH. Yeah, so he's got an H in his name, and other relatives in his family have a W in their name. What that means, I don't know.
So is that a joint?
Why? What's motive? Why?
I think that when you look at his internet searches, I think that provides a little insight into his state of mind. And again, we don't have to prove motive, we have to prove the elements, and that's what we're going to do.
You said that he was continuing to patronize sex workers until recently. How did you guys feel comfortable ensuring that you weren't putting these women at risk?
Well, you said women. With regard to the sex workers, what we did was we had him under surveillance.
Make note.
We had other means of monitoring him, and again, it's a process, and that process is you have to balance the ability to find enough evidence to charge him, and with the balance of keeping the public safe. And it's not easy, and we decided at a certain point in time that that we needed to take him down because we didn't feel comfortable with it. So that's what we did.
Did the frequency of his searches or the type of his searches increase to cause you alarm?
I don't think it was so much. I don't think it was so much the searches. I think that the conduct of the defendant was very consistent. I think, but the quality of our evidence was increasing by the day, by the moment, due to the great work of our task force partners. So at a certain point in time, we're like, okay, we can do this.
Is there a murder weapon, or was this all by physical force?
I believe the cause of death is homicidal violence. Obviously, given the length of time and the exposure to a very harsh environment, forensically there was not not a lot that could be done with the remains, other than come to that conclusion.
Cheapers. 92 guns. It was said at the arraignment that he had a license.
He has permits for 92 guns. He has a very large safe in which guns are kept.
How many?
We are continuing to execute search warrants, so I'm sure we'll have that answer shortly.
There's quite a large gap between when he last attended and his arrest. Is there any concern that he committed any other crimes in that time period before the task force?
Britt asking some.
I'm sorry?
Is there any concern that obviously when he last was known to commit a crime in 2010 and it's now 2013. The task force was set up in 2022. That's quite a large gap. Is there any concern?
I think there's.
Sounds like potato.
There's concerns. I think I got into office in January 22. We worked with our partners. We had our first meeting February 1st, and we worked. And March 14th was really that watershed day. And when I tell you, I'd like to brag and say that my office was really working hard, which we were, but no other agency was working any less hard than we were. Once we realized what we had, and we realized the
someone's
stakes,
alarm's going off.
All of our partnerships.
Q, that's his cue.
All of our partners really worked. I think if you look at the folks standing here, I don't think that, in the last 48 hours, any of us have gotten to sleep.
Sorry, that was so loud. My bad.
How much more do you need to actually tie into that?
We are going to continue our investigation, and when we are prepared, when we have concluded that investigation, we will, we'll bring that to a conclusion, but we will not do it before.
Bring it to a conclusion when we bring it to a conclusion.
Thank you.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, between all the search warrants and the subpoenas, were you ever, do you ever think that you were going to lose them? Being between all the searching around and stuff?
And I don't want to tell you, exact investigative techniques because they're, again, part of what reasons why they're effective is because people don't necessarily know what that, what it is exactly we do. But always a concern, but given the professionalism of our partners, their diligence and their commitment, we felt good about the case, or keeping the case going until we didn't, and then we took it down. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Oh my God! Shut him up!
Cut his mic. Cut his mic.
Wow. With all joking aside, though, pretty amazing investigative work to catch this shitbag after that long. He said the police commissioner said he's a demon. Oh, I know the chords. I noticed that when I first opened it, Flo. All right, let's, Lord have mercy. He's very excited, and, props to these guys. Props to these guys. There was 11 murders, and I think they have 2 killers. But the ones he was arrested for, 4 of them were the same, posed the same area where he was at and stuff like that. So, yeah. Pretty crazy stuff. But great investigative tactics. And I can't help but think about Idaho 4 when we hear about, tactics that the police are using and especially new things that are new to us, like all the cell phone. And I thought it was interesting. One thing that I made note of was how the burner phones, even though we had burner phones that are under fictitious names, they were still able to track him down because they went from burner phone to fictitious Gmail account to the Google searches. And with the Google searches, it gave them clues. So I don't think for a second that Moscow has it wrong. I really don't. And we're going to watch this weirdo in a second. But first, I want to show you guys, or I wanted to tell you guys, rather. Let me go ahead and just send it. Airdrop. Rebecca Scofield, we're going to switch to Idaho 4 for just 1 second. Rebecca Scofield is the UI professor who has been raked through the coals. She's been accused of the murders in Moscow, Idaho. Okay. So this history professor has been going back and forth with this Ashley Gouliard. She's a TikTok true crime psychic, I guess. Well, at any rate, I'm sure the legal costs are getting a little crazy for Miss Scofield. So her friend, S. Ramirez, who is the organizer, has started this And it looks like she's got a lot of support. So she's asking for $100,000. She's got hang on, let me move this over. She's asking for $100,000 total. And we all know that's not shit when you have a lawyer. But what a waste of fucking money, for real. I mean, what a waste of money that she even has to defend herself in this. Okay, so she has $9,085 out of the $100,000. So I will throw this in the description of the video if y'all would like to. It's Stephanie Ramirez, by the way. She made the first donation. I'll put this in the description if y'all want to help her out. It says, over the past 6 months, our dear friend and colleague, Dr. Rebecca Scofield, has been relentlessly and persistently targeted by a TikTok user making false claims linking her to the murders of the university students. In November of 2022, her attorneys sent 2 cease and desist orders to end the harmful statements to protect her, her husband, and her 2 young children. The TikToker mocked these attempts. Then Ms. Scofield filed a federal defamation lawsuit. And despite her attempts to resolve the case quickly, her legal fees have outpaced her resources. As her lawyers estimate it could be another year before it's resolved, it will cost a substantial amount of money to continue to contest these baseless claims and address counterclaims. Throughout the case, the TikTok user has continued to make new false statements. Online rumors and suppositions can ruin innocent people's lives, causing emotional distress, loss of reputation, and significant financial damage. Defamation lawsuits are necessary to deter these attacks. Unfortunately, without additional support, Dr. Scofield may be forced to drop the case in order to protect her family's financial well-being. Dr. Scofield is a dedicated member of the UI faculty and a beloved member of the Moscow community. Dr. Scofield's goal continues to be to resolve the suit and end the spread of false online statements as quickly as possible. Any donation to help support her and her family will be deeply appreciated. Any excess funds will be donated to the scholarship funds set up in the victims' names at the University of Idaho. So, like I said, I will put this in the description of the video if you would like to help her out. It will be there. So let's go back and switch gears. Let's go back to New York for just a second. We're going to just talk about this for a minute and show a little bit more of this interview. And then I will also put the link to this interview with Rex in the description of the video so you guys can check that out. I'm trying to get in the habit of putting everything down in that description box along with a description, which I've been slacking. I'm going to do a description every time, but I will put all the links that I can. So be sure to check that out. Kind of get in the habit of checking it because I will be doing that. And I'm going to be chaptering the lives that switch gears like this one. So it makes it easier for you replay crew because I love y'all too. All right, so let's go back to this dude. My God, goodness. This is so disturbing. Here we go. He gets pretty comfortable towards the end. So let's go to the last few minutes and watch. This is our suspect here that has been arrested for these horrific murders. They say he's a demon. This guy's a demon. According to law enforcement, he's a demon.
20s, but it's not yet under the 1938 code. So I'm in that slack water between 22 and 38. And I need to prove that the condition was legal at that point in time. Which is why at home I have an extensive library.
I'm sure.
Of obsolete books. And people want to know, why do I have a plumbing code from the 1970s?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
When I do work for either attorneys or have to look up something historical, I need the reference for that point in time.
Exactly, yeah.
You work for the experience of doing architecture. You get your license to practice.
Yeah.
As your time goes on, you learn about the buildings and about the codes and the different buildings of time frames. I'm dealing with a building from the 1880s right now. You know how they react. But it's the people, how they're all so different, and how you deal with the people, I think, is one of the more interesting aspects that have come out of this.
Yes. Okay. All right, my last question. If you were a tool or an object to help you in your to help you to bring your business to greater heights, what would it be?
That's an interesting question.
I know.
Because for what I do, we have to have so many tools in the toolbox.
Just one.
Just one.
Or an object. It doesn't have to be a tool.
What's he going to say?
You know what? I know.
All right.
One of the things I learned from my father was furniture building.
Okay.
He was an aerospace engineer and built satellites. And
runs in the family, building things.
And built furniture at home. And I still build it in the same exact workshop.
So?
I have one tool that's pretty much used in almost every job. And it's actually a cabinet maker's hammer.
Okay, cabinet maker hammer. Okay.
It is persuasive enough when I need to persuade something.
Not someone.
Something.
What the hell did I just hear? When he needs to persuade something, he uses a fucking hammer. Look at his teeth. He is a demon. He has demon teeth. Look at those chompers. This is terrifying. Jammers, make it make sense.
Persuasive enough when I need to persuade something.
Not someone.
Something. And it always yields excellent results. Yeah. And at the end of the project, whatever piece of furniture or what I'm working on, it always helps it come out beautifully.
Okay, great. So you would be kind of that kind of hammer for your business? That's what you're saying? If that doesn't exist, that's what you would be?
Sometimes I have to be the heavy framing hammer.
The heavy framing hammer.
Other times I'm the lightweight hammer just to nudge things along.
All right. I guess it's a hammer. We got it. That's it.
To say I'm speechless would not even be the right word. What did we just hear? Yeah, construction term, but we've got a serial killer that's using that term, so it sounds a little diferente. And he does look like fucking Trump. That is weird. Dye his hair, or get him a blonde toupee or wig, and he's Trump. He's got, except for the belly.
Comment, share, like, subscribe. Subscribe, very important. But in the meantime, it's
selfie time.
Selfie time.
Ew. Ew.
You're fast.
What?
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Ah! Can you smile?
That is.
He can't smile because he's got he's got devil teeth. There's the final outcome and his digits. Look. Here's his digits, ladies. 212-947-1925. Rex at rhcon.com. And then look at the selfie. Lord have mercy on my soul. He looks like Donald Trump. What the fuck? This dude is going to make the big time because he interviewed this creep. Oh my God. Mary Jane. Mary Jane has the comment of the day. This is perfect. This is perfect. Okay, so Mary Jane is going to close out our live stream today. Thank you guys for joining. And make sure that you hit that like button and subscribe if you want more. But I got to read this comment. She said, Mary Jane said, I had Brian Laundrie's dad pegged as the Long Island serial killer. So today Mary Jane's like, holy shit, I was wrong. I love you, Mary Jane. Thank you for that comment. I will throw this link in the description of the video, guys. Thank you for your support. Thank you for all the super chats and all of the gifted memberships. You guys are amazing. So peace out. And here's a little information on our Patreon. Be sure to check out my other videos and playlists for more true crime content. And if that's not enough, you can join our Patreon. Don't have a tinfoil hat? It's okay. We'll make you one. It's that easy. See you guys in the next video.
See you later. Bye.
Roberta.
I don't give a damn. I don't really care about you and your problems. I don't give a damn. You talk way too much. I have heard enough about you and your problems.
KB, it's you have to stand down.
Feels unreal, but I'm feeling differently. You're making plans to get to France, but don't wanna face the fact that I ain't got time, I ain't got time, I ain't got time for that. Staying up late, sleeping all day, dreaming about Cadillacs. Buying new shoes, hanging by the pool, sipping on Coke and Jack. Calling my phone when you feel alone, but I'll never call you back. 'Cause I ain't got time, I ain't got time.
You want one Jennifer or two Jennifers?
Bye, Jennifer. Thanks so much, Jennifer.